everyone. So today, very exciting. I have Petronel from the Care for Wild Rhino Sanctuary that I'm interviewing, and I'm so excited about that. Petronel, thank you so much for chatting to me.
Thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, I have a whole lot of questions that I want to ask you. Okay, so bear with me. First and foremost, how and where did the sanctuary actually start? Where or what was that pinnacle point in your life where you decided you're going to dedicate your life to rhino conservation and more specifically to help save these babies, these orphaned babies?
I got a big point. As Endangered Species Protection Unit, and it's a police unit, and then grew up on a farm. So it really came very naturally in having a mother and a dad, and both love nature and conservation, and so it started before the epidemic. I work on antelope, buffalo, sable, roam, and do a lot of training courses and teaching people how to work with these animals. So then, the first rhino came, and they look like another species that you don't work with every day. And then after, I would say 2012, it was basically raining rhinos, and State National Park, the MOU with the park that we will help save these rhinos. But I never knew it will be so many. You say yes, and you almost commit in your mind, and then the next moment it was just rhinos. It was just sometimes 2 a day, for a week. I can't even remember every day. It's like I said, I could never say if it's Monday, Tuesday, what's flowing, the days with it. And because it was such a sad situation, I felt a very deep with them, seeing how devastated, how see the trauma that went, horrific wounds, and that they leave these animals with natural thing that I want to get my hands on and really making a difference and playing a small in a big, I could say, conservation effort, where others are pilots, vets, park units, and so this is what we can do, and this is what I can contribute to rhino conservation. Absolutely amazing.
Awesome. Wow, that's such an amazing story. I can only imagine it must be quite emotionally taxing on you and your volunteers and all the people that work there to actually work with these traumatized animals, and sometimes to have to deal with not just their emotional wounds, but their actual wounds after a poaching incident.
I must say, I think it's for someone with a character that comes in myself. I'm quite a strong person, and with too much energy, so it does help. And you don't look at them and see the past. You look at them and see their future. So the success story, and do this, you must go 100%.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Now, we spoke about these babies and caring for them, these little orphans, etc. What does it actually take to take care of these babies? What is involved? How many carers? How many admin people? Volunteers, veterinary surgeons? Like, what does it actually take to take care of a newly orphaned rhino baby?
I think it takes a strong will. It takes energy. Sometimes people think it's a massive team. As we busy now, through the night it was myself and, but there's really people that commit to what we're doing. So different phases of these rhinos. So if it is more from 2 or 3 people, and then from there on we have other rhinos. So then there's different people taking care of different crashes. So younger have older babies, then you have 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6 years old, into adulthood is about now. So saying this, people must remember it's not a short process. You know, a mom fell pregnant, her, gestation period is about 16 to 18 months. And that's quite a long time. Mm-hmm. Then mom will conceive, and then she will baby, and then the baby will stay 3 years before she fell pregnant again. So thinking about this is of caretakers. Yes, a little bit of admin, but there's actually a lot of admin. Then our APU members, we have about 40 APU people, K9, reaction teams, very dedicated, that's with the belt 24/7. So I can tell you it's quite an operation that we're running.
It sure sounds like it, hey? My goodness. Because a person like me, for instance, I don't have that experience and I don't know what it entails, So it's absolutely fascinating for me to learn that you basically take care of these orphaned rhinos for a period of about 6 years. Am I correct in saying that?
They stay here in the stronghold. So a baby on a bottle is about 18 months, and then in the putting them together through this intensive, then 6 years they start. The females will start taking bull. It's not a bull, the bulls must be 8 years. So this process is quite a long process that you buy into. Now we have to remember, and this, you cannot work with or save a keystone system. So you must have healthy animals and healthy eggs to sustain the species. Make sure that your field management, your fire plan, your grass compositions is all in place to support this black and white rhino relations. So it's a process.
Yeah, jeepers, I actually really never realized that it is such a process, that it's so involved. It's so much more than just actually taking care of the actual animals. As you said, now it's the grass composition, it's making sure that the veld's okay, it's protecting them. Wow, I'm actually, you've just blown my mind, actually, to be honest. Now, quickly tell me, in terms of a new baby, and you mentioned that you guys received a new one last night. In the beginning, especially when they're very young, how often do they feed and how much do they feed?
That's a good question. We feed every 2 hours. If they a newborn, hour. But this little one came 5 days old, Anchor, and we feed him every second hour. Came in yesterday. He's about 6 months old, and we will feed him eventually every 3 hours. At the moment, putting him on a box, so he's still a blindfold on, just to help this, and earplugs in. Rhinos can smell, but they can't see good, and they can hear very good. Trying to do is let him a softer approach. Because the last time they saw people, they ran away from people, like the taste of the milk and the comfort of that, and then we will let him hear us, and then he will go on every 3 hour feeds. But what's impressive. They can eat a lot. They need to drink about 10 to 15% of their body weight. So if you think this rhino will weigh about 200 kilograms, you see, if you think about the rhinos in the veld, we're now doing a drive for helping people help us to buy bales to rhinos. So we're feeding like seven bales, big round bale, about 350 kilograms each bale. To work a herbivore is impressive. You know, they take your breath away with the resilience. And the rhino language is so important. And then the opportunities they gave us to engage with community, job creation, the vegetable gardens that we're doing. Communities must be inclusive of this concept. And just over 400 people jobs. Alien invasive plant control, fire. It must also be a sustainable model. So this is quite important as we develop, so include the communities and the chiefs in the communities and create opportunities in the area.
Wow, that's actually quite amazing, you know, and I love the fact that, you know, you guys are including the communities, because the one thing that I think we all agree on is that unless your community is invested in the animals and in conservation efforts, it's just not going to work.
It's not going to work. And what we also see, opportunity to engage with one another, and then they get animal that they've never had a chance to see even. So if we look at how we develop and how many people are working here, they all breadwinners. So if we think of COVID and a lot of the not able to work, we're in this fortunate position where the people can stay guards, ladies that's taking care and help us take care of the people that work here, and they can still have their jobs. And they're not losing jobs. So through saving the rhino, people, and that's a better future. And that is what we need to start in these areas of the communities.
That is absolutely amazing, you know, because the one question that I actually wanted to ask you is, how were you guys affected by lockdown, and were you affected? You know, and you've sort of partially answered that question now. In terms of what you're doing with the communities. But other than your communities and the fact that you've managed to keep them in employment and feed them, has lockdown had any consequences for you guys and for the rhino?
Look, if you look at directly, you know, some of the product to get hold of, like that was a little bit of a challenge. And then, but luckily, the essential services like your veterinarians, your, you know, the corporations where we get the food from, the farmers with the bales, you know, they're very well still. So what we saw on the poking about Limpopo or the eastern, but what we found in Mpumalanga area was that the poaching on rhino specifically went down, because people couldn't move. So from that point, it was almost positive. And we also make use of this time to train our people more, you know, more strategies in place, spend more time together, because yes, we're here and they massive great, but we were so involved with sometimes with them that this gave us a chance for team building, you know, do more development. So I would say we've done well. If the sponsors couldn't come and visit, and that's for us also difficult, but luckily they could talk to us, follow us on our Instagram. It was an interesting time, that I can tell you. Yes.
Absolutely, for all of us, hey? And speaking about your Instagram and your YouTube channel, how can people firstly get hold of you guys if they want to support you, or just follow the stories of the rhinos? And how can the normal people out there, the public, how can they help you guys?
You know, doing this for a few years, I was so surprised involved. Sometimes the children, they follow us, they and so on, and then you get for making jewelry and sell those, and you get someone that wants to market and just sponsor one bale. So, and then there's shop with our partners where they can go on the website and see some of our other partners that's helping through a percentage of their products. So there's many ways that one can get involved, and sometimes just to share as well. 155,000 followers throughout the world. And if we can make it a little bit better, people that's sitting in lockdown, while we actually have it as a blessing, we're so fortunate to work with this. I think it's also helping them and just feel like they're with us. So every single thing that you can think help, even just clothes for the guards, or t-shirts, or shop, even socks for us, so it's -7 morning, it's cold.
Wow, things that we generally don't think of. And then just my next question, what is the process for you guys to reintroduce a rhino that's been rehabilitated and that's been through that whole process? How do you reintroduce these animals to the wild?
It's a very good question, and sometimes we need to understand why not each and every person must just go ahead and start a rhino sanctuary. You must identify risks, so you must really go risk analysis. Things that I just can think of is you have to be able proper security. It is one of the most important things in reintroducing is proper security. There's things like a loss of habitat. Changes in climate is quite important, and I don't think people think we will have more droughts, water, or it might be colder, So, so those things is important to think about. There's sometimes in some areas also overpopulation. So it might be that there's an area and that fight for habitat territory. So do you have enough range and genetics as well? So demographics, is there enough bulls? Those things need to play a part in what we do here as well. And less diseases, some areas might have more diseases. Parasites, external parasites, that's a big part. And then another thing that people don't realize is there's an information scarcity on rhinos. Where can you read up how to re-up a rhino? Where can you read up about how to baby? That information and training people. As we speak, we busy helping people in Zimbabwe, Mount, Tanzania, Namibia, with some of the SOPs and regulations in rehabilitation. So must also be able to share information to make sure that more and more people know what they not necessarily eventually lose that rhino because they don't know how to work in rehabilitation and reintroduce to do with adaptation, crashes put together, enough water. How is that animal doing the first winter in the veld? Is it losing condition? So I think to do with, go out and look at the conditions of the animal, rate the conditions of the animal. Dehorning is a big part, discuss maybe. And when do you dehorn? Do you dehorn just because of poaching? Or in our case, we also, so that all the animals not kill each other for or habitat or the territory. So you mustn't just rush into this and think you know what you're doing. You have to be monitoring, do observations, keep records. At the moment we're talking to the universities, so that we can know, is this the best milk formula for the different stages? rehabilitation of these animals? Is this the best? So we weigh regularly. These new babies, we weigh every second. I know it's a mouthful, but it is a mouthful. So it is, you must love it. You must love to learn from the rhino. So take the lead from the rhino. Learn as much as you can about their living. Sometimes they wait for us. That's what they want to say. Like the baby that came in last night, that just his body is very afraid, that he went through a lot. So there's footage where an elephant tried to kill there's some footage and scratches on his body. The lions trying to attack that is, yes, just an absolute miracle. And I take my hat off to the Kruger and finding this baby all alone and stay with the baby, and just so that we can start a process and a journey with this baby to eventually see him as a big rhino.
That is absolutely fascinating. My gosh, you've blown my mind. You just keep blowing my mind in terms of what it actually takes to care for these babies. You know, it's just absolutely fascinating. So you guys obviously work very closely together with, as you said, universities, with other organizations. You share information, but you also document and write up your SOPs as you go along to help other organizations to also be better at conservation and to actually help these animals and these animal populations to grow.
Oh, you think that's quite important for us as well, as a non-profit as well. It doesn't help us sitting here not sharing. So if orphanages, other orphanages as well, that can take babies that have other genetics and other demographics, we need to repopulate places that might not have any rhino. I know of a few private reserves that doesn't have rhinos anymore. It's gone. I will never think in my life, I will say a big 5 reserve is now a big 3. That's sad, but we're in that times now that there's big 5 reserves, that's now big 4 reserves. That's for all of us. It's sad as well. Will be very sad because tourists doesn't want to come here to see our wildlife. So if you look at the economy of wildlife, job creation in wildlife, much larger than protecting a rhino, protecting much more than that as well. It's protecting revenue, foreign. We bring in volunteerism in the Eastern Cape. That money, you see, it's a local economy that's helping. Because remember, if we think about what they eat, what they drink, the medicine, the farmers planting, it is all ability in areas we help creating, that creates jobs again. So by just losing one keystone species, it's not a species that much more.
You know what? That is absolutely fascinating, and it's so true. You know, and I think people often forget that around these amazing, iconic, beautiful, gorgeous animals, there's so much more to that. There's so much more to conservation and making sure that they are preserved for future generations. Because, as you rightfully said, it's all the peripheral industry that supports conservation that also benefits from it, and the communities. Now, I have another question for you. We spoke about the peripheral industry. Roughly, off the top of your head, what does it take financially to raise just one rhino baby? From where you guys get them, let's say a little anchor, from where he is now to where you can kind of start reintroducing him to the wild. How much money does it actually take?
Between 120,000 per year, if I can call it that. So in the beginning, you know, it's a lot of milk that intensive, the caretakers is also, with these animals 24. Later on, if this animal we introduce into a natural ecosystem, it takes less, but it's fences, it's cameras, it's dogs, it's rangers, so uniform. So I would roughly about 10,000 between 5 and 10,000 rand a month. Can we put an amount on any rhino? No, not ever. With a critically endangered that needs to be saved, because we can't. What will it moon? But we can't save the rhino. I know there's different people working on different things, even on intelligence and crime intelligence syndicate go full out for greed and corruption and corrupt people. We must stand for much more. When we save the rhino, we also stand against corruption, because these syndicates are so well organized. Rhino Horn, they're also cash in transit. They're also raping people, armed robbery, and then they corrupt people that was actually they're looking after families. They were established in their jobs, and so all these things. It's much than just saving one little rhino baby. People working every day trying to save this species. If it rains, if it hails, if it's, they dedicate their lives to this.
That is so true. As you say, it is a dedication, and it's not something where you can go half measures. Now, speaking of that, what are your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations for the sanctuary going forward?
This is a very asking me. I never know it will grow to this, So every day is such a blessed privilege to work with this group of people, firstly, and then work with EC as a keystone species, save other species. So if I say what is the dreams as we grow into this, my dream is to see other people's dreams come true, that they fulfill who they are, and seeing this, we also wants to sponsor a bursary for people in the community to do a degree or certificate or diploma. We're now doing life management courses for some of the people, lodge management courses, and my aspiration is to see that there's a job for someone. So proud of going home and their children say, but my dad is coming home tonight. So if there's fine, it's a dad coach, and maybe he'd been killed by a ranger, and he's not going. And on the other side, there's a person at the sanctuary or working in conservation, and he's making a living that and he's go home to him, and he's home, and they're proud of him. So those pictures in my mind, people that is more sustainable to look after this iconic species than being a criminal and following that type of thing. So I would say for us to grow as a company, people can have their dreams, their training, diplomas, bursaries, vegetable gardens, a clinic for the women and children in the area, more soccer teams. Rhinos give us an opportunity to save people. I think that's my dream.
That is amazing. We always think of conservation as us saving the rhinos. And that is something, and you've mentioned it a couple of times now, that the rhinos also give you opportunities to save the people. And that's a beautiful thing. That is just absolutely amazing for me. It's really awesome. Now, in terms of conservation, firstly, just rhino conservation, and secondly, conservation as a whole. where would you like to see South Africa and the rest of the world go in terms of that?
What I saw years now, sitting with this always this activism, realism, and those type of things. But what I've seen is there's more and more forces and smaller things that, like the London Marathon, like the Ollie group that's doing so well on the Eastern Cape, that more people and spread the word. Look at, there's a meta population. So Africa has a meta population. Then we have a smaller population, South Africa. Then there's a population in the provinces. And then there's specific reserve. So if we think about that, there must be a rhino center of talk together and say, what the country doing this year for rhino conservation, So the minister must have a strong stance poaching, because that's also influence clearly. I mean, so I think standing more together as one team and have all these very well positioned groups working together. So if I see people playing different roles, playing a role at Care for Wild, looking after the rhinos, being good in rescuing, training, then there must be people in the political circles, there must be the activist circles, there must be people like you seeing what we do and marketing and spreading the word further. So all of us must have the same, and that is to save rhino from extinction for our country.
I totally just love your outlook on life. I love your outlook on conservation. I totally love the work that you do, Petronel, and I absolutely just salute you for everything that you do for these amazing, iconic, beautiful babies. It's just absolutely amazing. Now tell me, any more thoughts from your side? Anything else you would like to share with us today?
One of the things that I think in conservation, where you have to understand the sustainability, what I've seen here is and preserve water, and how even at my house, we have up to catch the rain and sunlight on the farm. So some of the edification and the products that we can use is we're making manure and we're making fire. So out of this, save the rhino, we must think more and more, how can we sustain this? So what we also came up with is a macadamia farm, and take hands with the community, and then also big vegetable, profitable, where we create work, and that will be, products that we can sell years, and that some of that risk back into rhino conservation, and then also go back to the community. We have to think sustain if we think conservation, because we cannot be always donor based. Time just be so donors. We have to make creative decisions to make conservable, and I think that I would love to bring over to people and say, well, look at things creative in sustainability.
I absolutely love that. I'm so with you on that, and I've chatted to quite a few people that are like-minded, in terms of that, the sustainability, because I totally agree with you, especially now with this whole COVID thing, people,
Yes.
funds are an issue. So I love the whole sustainability, linking in, the environmental sustainability, linking in, and economic sustainability with the conservation. I totally subscribe to that, and I love that idea and that vision. That to me is amazing.
No, it's absolutely, and it's also good to live like this, it's far and difficult, but it's not. It starts with us, it starts small. It starts with us. How do we teach our children? What do we show our children? I'm also a mom, of teenagers. you must you must know what you do. You know that time, you know. You know, we must be enthusiastic. You know, we mustn't. It's so difficult and everything is so hard, you know, and so suffer so much. No, man, and have hope, you know, spread, and you know, and yes, if we save this baby, be happy about it. And saved another rhino. Yes, it's sad, lost a rhino, but at least we today is a good day because we saved a rhino. And there's many that in dire straits. But guys, please start living now. You know, make the difference. And we live like this. If I seen so many people commenting on our posts and so on, guys, you guys following us and you guys motivating us that we will not stop doing. It's important that we receive from you guys all over the world, and so much for that.
You know what? And we want to just thank you guys for everything that you do, because it is amazing. I totally love your energy. I love your way of thinking. And I can just sense that we're going to have many more chats. But at this point in time, I'm going to set you free. I'm going to let you go and go check on your new baby. Petronel, thank you so much for chatting to me. It was lovely chatting. And I do reserve the right to have future chats.
Oh, okay, that would be great. And maybe next time, baby, we must do the chat where we can see the baby and you join me for feet.
Oh, that would be awesome. I'm so in yet. Totally
okay, so it will be short.
Lovely. You will definitely do that.
Excellent. Oh, thank you, Sharon.
Thank you so much. And
thank you so much.
We'll chat soon. Oh, for you. I hope you'll heal soon.
You go. Bye-bye.